record now. And welcome everyone to our Buffalo Stampede volunteer briefing. My name's Nigel. I'm part of the single track events team. Also on the video here, depending on where you're looking, I know we have Julie Azapati, who's one of our volunteer coordinators, and Vic Dorf as well, and my partner in crime, Colin Taylor, as well on the call. So there's a number of people part of it. I'm just doing the main speaking this evening. But first of all, thank you so much for, one, giving up your Wednesday night to cover some of this information. And number two, thank you so much for volunteering as part of the Buffalo Stampede. We have over 100 different time slots, volunteer slots, over the course of the 3 days that we need to fill. And that requires a lot of people. And so it requires people like you to give up time, energy, and resources to be a part of it, to make it a really great experience for our athletes, which is what it's all about. So further ado, let's crack into it. As I said at the top, I'm Nigel. I'm the second one there. On the left is Colin, who looks after all program of single track events. Joe Dorf, who's our course director. Donay, who looks after all our marketing. Madge, who's our community hype man. He's actually doing a live stream on Facebook at the moment. So thank you for choosing us over that. And also Blake Hose, who's our trail coach as well. He puts together all of our training programs. So that's the main crew. And then those people I just mentioned then, Julie and Vic. So they're our wonderful volunteer coordinators. First time they've been our volunteer coordinators for single track. But thank you so much to both of those superstars. They've been rallying and finding different people, as well as following up with different questions and queries and chasing up and filling all of the slots. So these two people will be some of your main contacts on the weekend. Primarily, Julie will be one of our key contacts for you as you arrive. So when you arrive and check in, she'll be the one that will be helping you, giving you your gear and your kit if you're in the event village. I'll explain a little bit more about that along the way. Vic will very much, Vic's involved in some different things on the weekend itself. So you may not see quite so much of Vic, but having said that, she will still be there and she'll still be very active in the lead up to the event. So they're our main two volunteer coordinators. These are our three events: Stampede, Roller Coaster Run, which is on in the Dandenongs in October, and a new one, Grampians Peaks Trail, going to happen in November. So let's tell you a little bit about the Buffalo Stampede Festival. So first held in 2014. This is our third edition under the name of Single Track Events. It was previously run by a different organisation. And it's Australia's first sanctioned sky run. Now, what that means is that there's a particular gradient, a particular steepness to the routes and to the courses, which means it's really very difficult. So that's the level of challenge that they're all about. It all happens in Bright, in Northeast Victoria, which we like to call the trail running capital. So there are distances all the way from 2 kilometers right up to 100 kilometers, and then we have a what we call Grand Slams. So these are groups of people that are participating over the full 3 days. So there's two of these. There's the Ultra Grand Slam, so they do the 10K on Friday, 100K on Saturday, and then the 42K on Sunday, and then the Buffalo Stampede Grand Slam, which is 10, 20, and 42 for those who are really crazy, basically. I'll go through a little bit more of the schedule in a little while, but they're the main quick summary of the events. The teams relay one, we're really excited to see nearly 30 teams in the teams relay this year. So they participate and they complete that full 100K course on the Saturday as part of a team. So it could be 2, 3, or 4 person teams as well. Big question has been, how many are we expecting? We're in the range of 1,400 to 1,500 people coming this year, which will be certainly one of the biggest Buffalo Stampede events ever. As I promised, the schedule. So all of this is on the website. The link's there in the top right-hand corner of your screen in the pack. And I have sent this around as a PDF. So I hope if if anyone has any troubles, just shoot me a note and I will, I can certainly resend it, or Vic or Julie can resend it out to you. So Friday, we kick things off from 2:30. So I know a number of people on the call here will be part of bib collection and the bag drop aspects. So that kicks off from 2:30. And then our first race starts at 5 o'clock, which is our 10-kilometer sky sprint. That course has changed in the last couple of weeks based on some of the new safety requirements from Alpine Community Plantation, which is in Mystic Park. I won't go too much into that, but let's just say things have changed. And then you can see the flow from here. We'll do presentations at 7:30 for the top 3 overall. And then things really start to shut down from 8 o'clock. Basically, they're closed from 8 o'clock. So it's a shorter, sharper warm up to the weekend on the Friday, with that main hero event being the 10-kilometer. Saturday is a very big day, starting at 5:15 for bib collection there for the 100Kers only. Now, most 100Kers will have completed that the night before because they really just want to get to the start line. They want to minimize their risks and their challenges and things like that. 6 o'clock is our first race start for the 100Kers, including the relays. Then 8 o'clock for our 20-kilometer sky run, 8:30 for our 5-kilometer family fun run, and 9:15 for our 2-kilometer junior trail run. So just quickly, the 5K and the 2K, that all happens in Bright Township, happens along the river side. Very flat course, very welcoming for all families. I will note that it is not pram friendly. So if you do get any queries about that during check-in or registration or anything like that, just be aware it's not, the 5K in particular is not pram friendly. It's pretty rocky down the end of the canyon. We're expecting our first finisher at 9:45 for the 20K, and then we'll do the presentations at 12 noon. And then we really close down that bib collection for a break, basically. Break time, the group that's been on bib collection, they'll start switching across to refreshments and recovery. And we just need a break there so we don't cook our volunteers too much. First finisher expected for the 100K around about 5 o'clock, maybe 5:30, depending on how things go. And then we close at 6 o'clock for the bib collection for the 42K Sky Marathon. So that's when things really close then. Note that the 100Kers, they continue arriving all through the night till basically 7 a.m. The next day. So, important note on Sunday at 3 a.m. Oh, I even got a gasp on the call. That's great. There's daylight savings, right? So we do get to do that hour once again. So 3 a.m. becomes 2 a.m. And we continue with that basically again. We do have buses, shuttle buses that go up to the top of Mount Buffalo for the Sky Marathon. So they start marshalling from 5 a.m. and the buses start departing Bright for Mount Buffalo for a 7 a.m. start, basically. We are expecting that first finisher down by roughly 11 o'clock, probably a little bit earlier, maybe 10:30 or so. And then we wrap up with the presentations and everything at 2 o'clock. And from that point, we really start not so much packing down the village, but taking down all of the extra sort of activities that aren't necessary. And then our final, our course closes at 4 p.m. So that's our cutoff for our Sky Marathon. And there are, if you're new to trail runs and things like that, we do have cutoff times throughout the whole event, all of the events. So if athletes, essentially if athletes are not making the progress that we really want them to make, if they're moving too slowly, we have a right to pull them from the course. Really, and that's out of respect, partly for the athlete themselves, for their well-being, but also it's for our volunteers. It's for your benefit that you're not waiting around for days and days for people to participate. We do have to draw a reasonable line in the sand around some of this activity, even though it is fairly unreasonable, we know, to run 100 kilometers in a day. We do have to put some parameters around some of those things. All of those cutoffs, they're built into the aid station open and close times. So if you are on an aid station, basically on the times that we provided, they will help explain some of those. And I know a number of people on this call are part of an aid station, so I will get to some of those roles next. That covers off the first part, all about our schedule for the event. Again, if you do want any information, I do encourage you to jump on the website, just read through the A to Z information. It'll have lots of the different questions and some of the queries that people are likely to ask you, or just, it's just helpful to understand. I know that sounds like I'm giving you homework, but it is really helpful to have some of that background information. So it's all there available. We've tried to consolidate that as much as we can onto one page to make it sort of easy to digest, but you know, it's a lot of information as well. Okay, number one question people will ask us is, where do you go? So for any roles that are in the event village, be it bib collection or being involved with the 2K and the 5K events, or in the recovery area, you will come to our event village. Now, our event village, when we say that, is right next to Bright Brewery, which is on Great Alpine Road in Bright. Some people call that Gavin Street, depending on what you put into your GPS. But ultimately, if you put 121 into your Great Alpine Road or Bright Brewery into your GPS, you'll be able to find us. If you're looking for a parking spot, there is Howitt Park, which is just off Howitt Lane, very close by. But we really encourage you to find a location that's suitable for you. Parking is fairly relaxed in Bright, but around event time, it will get really busy. So do consider where you park if you're there for a full day. The start line for the 42K Buffalo Stampede Sky Marathon on the Sunday, they run from the top of Mount Buffalo all the way back to Bright. So they actually will start this year up at the Gorge Day Visitor area up in Mount Buffalo National Park. So just for your information. Okay, that's where to go. The next question is about, what do you get? Good. So upon arrival, either we'll ask you to check in with Julie, who's one of our volunteer coordinators, or if Julie's not on shift, another volunteer coordinator at the event village. Or if you're able to go straight to your aid station location, please just feel free to go straight to that aid station location. That can save you a lot of time. And there we will have some pre-made up kits for you, which includes some of these things. So that's something we can work out with each of you depending on what your location is, but we know that can save some people 30 minutes up to an hour. Rather than driving into the village to pick up a t-shirt and hat, if you can go straight to your aid station, wherever that might be, or your marshal spot, it can certainly save you a lot of time. And that's important. We don't want to impose any more than we already are on your time. So you'll get a great looking crew t-shirt and a great cap. We'll provide you some sunscreen as well. You will get an entry credit into a future single track events race. Hence why I mentioned the roller coaster and GPT earlier. We'll give you snacks and refreshments and meals during your shift. Also, this event, we are offering you a Hoka shoe discount, a 30% discount shoe code. So if you want to buy some shoes, that's pretty exciting. That's part of a thank you gift from Hoka. I will share that information separately rather than put it in this pack, but you will get an email with that details on how to redeem that discount. And of course, you'll get that warm glow from looking after our athletes as well. So that would be really cool if you can enjoy the fact those what's the word? Altruistic benefits of volunteering. So please bring with you a positive attitude. Probably goes without saying, but we don't want people to be grumpy. One of the and I'm sure you know the type of people who do volunteer don't tend to be, have a trouble with that, shall we say. Please bring a drink bottle. We will have plenty of water and plenty of liquids around for you, but if you bring your own drink bottle, that would be fantastic. All of our aid stations are cut-free, so if you bring your own device, all the better. Please wear comfortable shoes. most roles will involve a lot of standing up. So no uncomfortable shoes, please. And just make sure it's really comfortable and casual as well. Look, please bring comfortable clothes, but also warm clothes, potentially warm jumpers and long pants, wet weather clothes, including a raincoat and an umbrella. We hope you don't need it, but the current forecast looks to be wet each of the days of the event. Not heavily raining, but at least 5 mil each day. So please do come prepared. Conversely, please also bring sunglasses. Please bring your mobile phone, and if you're on a really long shift, consider bringing like a spare recharging battery if you've got a phone that's a bit fluky like that. We recommend you bring a bag to carry everything with you. We will likely have a backpack to carry with you, but I'm thinking if you've got jackets and those sort of things that you don't want all the time, maybe you want to bring a backpack with you as well. If you're on an aid station or a course marshal role, you may want to bring your own camping chair. Again, some of those roles are really long. If you're in the village, no chairs required. You'll be your shifts are sort of dynamic enough. There won't be enough time sitting down, but some of the shifts on aid stations can be up to 12 hours in length. So we don't want you standing up for that long. You don't need to be standing up for that long. So if you can bring that with you, that would be amazing. All right. That's what you get out of it. That's what we're asking you to bring. Next, I'll talk through each of the different roles. And then after that, we'll jump into some of the questions as well. So the first part of the weekend is all about bib collection before we do any racing. And we've described here a flow for you. And again, this is provided in PDF format, so you can read it between now and the event weekend. But if you're on our bib collection roles or any of those sort of activities, which also changes into recovery and refreshments once the races start, this is what the bib collection roles are all about. So number one, welcome athletes. The next step will be checking their mandatory gear. So all athletes are required to have mandatory gear. Please don't worry about this. This will be done with some selected volunteers. So if we haven't tapped you on the shoulder about this, you won't need to worry about it. Now, the main job is really providing that correct bib and some pins to the athletes. So participants are all sent an email on the Thursday or the Friday prior to the event, depending on when their event is, that has their race number in it. So we do ask that they bring that number ready with them so they can just come up and say, my name's Timmy G, I'm number 123, and you can, and I'm in the 10 kilometer, and you can give them that bib straight away and some pins. Now, you don't need to tick their names off. We will keep a record of all of those that are available. And in this function, in this area, to improve things, we will assign different volunteers to different distances. So you might be doing all of the, we might have 2 people all the 10K bibs. We might have 1 person on all of the marathon bibs, for instance. We might have 1 person on all the 100K bibs. So you're just looking in that same range of bibs all the time. They're all numbered in order. So 1, 2, 3, then becomes 1, 2, 4, becomes 1, 2, 5 in a set. So it should be fairly easy to streamline that process as quick as possible. If there's any changes, and that's further down in the notes, so I'll get to that in a moment. Bag drop. So people who are participating in the 100 kilometers, they are able to drop some food, water, clothing. I'll explain that on the next slide. Backsacks. So we do have drawstring bags where people to put their shoes and some clothes in. You can hand them out to everyone except our 5 and 2K participants. There's free t-shirts as well for people in the 100K, the relay and the 42K only. So you can direct them at the end of the flow across to the merchandise tent to collect their free t-shirt. They just need to show their bib and they'll get themselves marked off. In any of that flow, if there's any changes or any general questions, number one, could you please make sure that you've read the A to Z guide? That would be really helpful. But also there will be just 1 person in charge of the master change sheet, if you like. So that's people changing from, say, the 10 kilometer event to the 20 kilometer event. So we'll just have one person recording all of those changes and any bib changes that happen. So what we just ask is that any of those changes or any of that Q&A, we'll try to create a space separate from the main flow, particularly if we've got 1,500 people to give bibs out to. We'll create a separate part of the flow so it doesn't, the whole queue isn't backed up while this person has a particular question or is doing an event transfer. That's the first run around bib collection. Now, I mentioned drop bags. So as part of that system as well, we will have drop bags. We encourage people to prepare them like this, which is a very snazzy Woolworths style bag with a zipper, basically with their details on them. And so some people in that registration area, they will be required to, I guess, sort some of these things into some groups, into piles. Basically, there's 2 piles, depending on which of the aid stations out on course they're going to, being at Eurobin or being Mount Buffalo Chalet. They're the 2 different areas. So we'll have some tables set up in an area, but don't be surprised, please, if you're there and you get designated one of these roles, to simply take it in. And really, if it's not clearly labeled like this, we're going to send people away and make sure that they are clearly labeled, because it's their responsibility to present it in this format. Recovery zone. So I guess the part of the fun part, right? Like, we've done the bib collection, and those people who have been involved in bib collection, once the race starts, they now flip over and convert into recovery zones. So this is all about helping with chopping fruit, preparing water, preparing fixed nutrition, which is our sports nutrition drink that we provide. You may have the chance to award finisher medals to, finishers, give a Bright Brewery beer to all the over 18 runners, and before that, really help directing any runners to the race starts as required. So there's a bit of a generalist role there in terms of the event village. So we might have some people finishing and then other people starting a new event. So there's a bit of direction, bit of traffic flow that needs to happen as part of that. So generally, I think if you're on bib collection, you're also on this recovery zone role as well. All right, aid stations. This is a huge part of our role, basically. And so these are out on course in a number of different locations. There's 6 of them out there. On the right-hand side are all of the different fluids, foods and snacks, and then hot stuff that we provide at the different events. And fundamentally, this role is about making sure that those athletes, and when they're out on course, have all of the water, nutrition support that they might need. And this is also a really key location where our first aid officers will be located as well throughout the different event. They tend to roam through the event, but they will tend to dwell at these aid stations. And so really, if there's anyone who's looking in distress or anything like that, please direct them to those aid stations or follow the chain of command through the team leader to pass that info on. A few things here, really make sure people know where they're going. That's an important part of it. You may, if you're on the first shift, you might be involved with the setup of marquees and tables and water and those sort of things with the support of our support crew. As people come, really helpful to serve fruit and food with tongs or just see what they really need. Notify the race director or your team leader if supplies are running low. So if you're noticing there's not a lot of watermelon around or something like that, maybe just let them know before it's too late. As I said, notify anyone who's in need of assistance, and then also we'll ask the team leader to notify of any athletes who, are looking like they're close to those cutoffs. If you're on the last shift, we'll ask you to help pack down and return all the gear. And ideally, many hands make light work out there. I'll show you a photo in a moment of what an aid station looks like, and really a few different hands around that will make a big difference. So this is a cup-free event, so athletes have to carry their own flasks with them to fill up at the aid stations. So just heads up there, you won't be filling up cups and things like that for people. There are tongs provided for food service. A really small note here is that you will be making up bags of the fixed nutrition, and they make 30 litres up. So just so you know, as part of that. And there will be a lot of water involved. Some of these stations will have up to 600 litres of water attributed to them over the course of the weekend. So it will get busy in a number of spots. I'm going to talk about each of these locations just one in turn, because I know this is a key, I guess, concern for people if they're not familiar with the Bright area, which I understand a lot of people aren't, which is fantastic. Just explaining some of these things is really key. And again, it's in PDF format. So if you want to come back and click on any of these links and find out these map locations and just check things, then you can. Here I've listed out the main aid station operating times. And before I talk through this one for Baker's Gully, I'll just explain that the times that we've now placed in, I volunteer for the first shift. That includes a setup time as well. So that includes a loading and setup and travel time to each of the different aid stations. So if you're on those first shifts of each ones, please contact Julie or Vic to just clarify what sort of role and what sort of time in particular you need to be where you need to be. We will need hands and help setting up, but we've set the most, I suppose, the earliest and most extreme startup time to allow for comfortable travel to the locations. Again, as I said before, if you're traveling, we've allowed travel from Bright to those locations, but you might be staying in Myrtleford or somewhere else, and that might affect and impact the times. So please just check, I guess, the operating times versus the times that we've provided in iVolunteer, because you may note that actually includes your travel time in iVolunteer. So the time that you would need to leave Bright to get there to set up, not necessarily the time that you need to be standing in Baker's Gully, if that makes sense, or the aid station that you're on. So we don't need you to add time travel onto the top of that. I hope that makes sense. I think it made sense. Let's talk about Baker's Gully. So this is our busiest aid station. Every single event, trail race goes through this one. It's really close to Bright, 5 minutes drive. Note the last stretch is on a dirt road. It runs Friday night, Saturday from 8:30 till 11 a.m. for the 20Ks, and then 3 p.m. till 7 a.m. for the 100Ks, and then on Sunday, 9:15 till 2:30 p.m. for the 42K Sky Marathon. I'm trying to remember my schedule there for a minute. Now, please note, some of you may have signed up to be part of the Mystic Aid Station. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, that course has now changed. It no longer goes through Mystic. It will now go through Baker's Gully. So if you were assigned to if you were assigned to Mystic, we've now reallocated you to Baker's Gully. There are still some Mystic marshalling roles that are still required during that time. So please check iVolunteer. We'll send out some confirmations in the next few days to just check those things as well. So I just saw a question there from Julie. Will Baker's Gully be packed up Friday night and then set up again on Saturday morning? Excellent question. The short answer is no. What we're planning to do with this and all of these aid stations is just set it up. We will have some trailers there on site that we're able to store some equipment in. And I will say, weather permitting, we will set as much as we can up on the Friday. And then on the Friday night, kind of drop the marquees, lower them down, store as much gear as we possibly can in the trailer. And then it'll be a quick reopen again on Saturday morning. So we don't have to redo that work. The caveat being that if it's absolutely pouring down with rain, that may change that plan. But as some people have said, when rain comes in, all plans change anyway. So that's the plan at the moment. And our intent is that with most of these aid stations that go over multiple days, it won't be much of a pack down between the days. We can really reuse some of the work we've already had from the previous day. Clear Spot Lookout. I'm thinking it's the most scenic aid station. Look at that great view there. That's a great spot to spend your weekend. So do note, this is, if you're going up to this location, please note it is roughly 30 minutes drive, or a comfortable 30 minutes drive on some fire trails via Baker's Gully, then Clear Spot Road, and then onto Demon Ridge Track. Please don't trust Google Maps if it's your first time up here, because it may send you up practically a vertical four-wheel drive route. So just be really cautious about that. Just check with someone if it's your first time, please, up clear spot. You can see the operating times there. And again, they're excluding our setup times throughout the period. So essentially here, once it's set up on the Saturday morning, it will remain set up until Sunday afternoon. Once again, I've included a Google Maps pinpoint there. So if you are planning to go up, you can use that as a location to know exactly where to go. Promised you a photo of an aid station. This is really a recent photo from last year from the Buckland Valley setup. So as I described, a couple of pop-up tents, some tables with water, Coke, a heater in this stage. The second table there has some fruit, different resources, and you'll see behind that a trailer. So a spot to put a lot of the gear when it's not being used. That's really what it looks like. Probably not very glamorous, I'll admit that, but we are working on dressing some of those up a little bit more this year. Plenty of water, as you can see there, number of water barrels in the back. So Buckland Valley, this is certainly our most accessible aid station. You can just drive there on roads, 15 minutes from Bright, this one, the 100K, 100K, and 42K for those ones. There are some operating times there as well for those ones. Urobin Creek Picnic Ground. So this is right at the base of Mount Buffalo. Please note, if you do go here, mobile reception is very, very poor in this area. So regardless of Telstra, Optus, anything like that, we have looked into ways to improve that. Haven't got very far for a very good cost. So just be aware of that, please. The 100K and the 100-kilometer relay go through here on the Saturday. That is a typo there because the 42K comes through on the Sunday morning. You'll see the Sunday morning period there is only a couple of hours, about 2.5 hours, because they just basically descend from Mount Buffalo, flow straight through and come out. This is a bag drop location. So for the inbound, outbound, so those bag drops I referred to earlier, if you're on this aid station, you will be helping to reorganize them into some form of order based on bib number. All right on top of Mount Buffalo Chalet is our next aid station. If you type in Gorge Day Visitor Center into Google, it'll get you there. Roughly 50 to 60 minutes drive up from Mount Buffalo Tourist Road, so do allow for that. Once again, this is a bag drop location, inbound and outbound, and it basically operates for 12 hours on the Saturday only, so 9 a.m. till 9 p.m. Throughout. The last location is Cresta Valley. So this is right at the end of the horn of Mount Buffalo. So even once you've made it up to the chalet, you keep driving roughly another 15 to 20 minutes. It's only used by our 100 and 100K relay participants, but it is a 9:45 till 6 p.m. Time period. Basically, that excludes the setup times. Yeah, quite a distant location, and one that, you know, it's very close to their turnaround point for the 100-kilometer athletes because they're running right to the top of Mount Buffalo. But again, quite remote out there. There is a toilet at that location at the very least, but yeah, quite a remote spot. So I'll just pause there and just say that's our aid stations. I will open up for some questions at the end of the presentation, but they're each of the different locations. Again, I encourage you to just put those, if you know which of those aid stations you're going to, start thinking about that travel time. Make sure you put those locations into your phone, and do acknowledge that particularly for some of those spots, mobile phone reception is not particularly very good. So do think about that. All right, some of the other roles and other people on tonight will be around course marshalling roles, and these are straightforward in terms of less complicated than an aid station role, but still also really critical. And we hear stories from other events all the time about marshals not being in the right position and athletes not knowing which way to go. So really important that course marshals show which way to go, notify the race director of any athletes that need assistance. Again, you're like our eyes and ears out there. and please stay in position until the sweeps come through. And again, this is a great role. For some of these roles, do consider bringing a chair because some of them are out there for quite a long time, particularly through the Mystic Park area. So some of the key locations are in and around the Bright Township and the Caravan Park area where the race actually starts. Our 5 and our 2K courses, we have marshals at all of the key locations along there. From memory, there's about 7 of them. For the longer courses, certainly Clear Spot, that's a key marshal point there to direct. Essentially, the 100K runners go one way, the 20K runners soon go another way very shortly after, so a really key spot. And then a number in Mystic Park that has been a recent addition. So one which we call Mixed Track, which is on the shuttle road to ensure that the runners don't interact with the cars. One is at Star Road, which is at the very base of Mystic Park at the, I guess what you call the main entrance or one of the entrances. And then the final one is up at the Mystic launch pad as well, just in case there are any vehicles around there, and particularly the paragliders that are up and about, particularly during the daylight hours. We just want to make sure those groups don't interact together, or if they are interacting, they interact safely. So in the interest of time, we will provide specific locations and specific details to all those course marshals that are involved. Please ensure that these volunteers, make sure you bring all of the things that we mentioned in the bring list, because some of these locations are outstanding or being on site for a really long time. So again, straightforward role, but a really key role. We really do notice, our athletes notice when we don't have our course marshals in the right place. Sweepers. No, it's not about cleaning the house. If you're new to trail running, sweepers are the people who are on course behind the last runner. So these are really important roles. Some people might call them a tail end Charlie. I guess in trail running, we call them sweepers. One additional thing that you'll receive is a sweeper bib. You'll see an example on the graphics, depending on where you are at the moment. So that's for them to wear. And what we have on course, we have a number of different timing points throughout the course. And so once these athletes, once the sweepers go through those timing points, we will know electronically where you are out on course. Fundamentally, the role is to really walk behind the last person on course, make sure everyone reaches the finish line safely. Notify the race director or medical team of any athletes who need assistance. And again, we can have that discussion about any athletes who might be going to fall outside the cutoff zone. Your important role is that as you come through, you get to tell the aid stations, yep, this is the last runner. I'm the last runner, and the marshals as well. I'm the last runner. I'm the sweeper, basically. Really important point, please make sure you have a good understanding of the course if you're going to be sweeping it, so that if someone does need assistance, we can actually understand where you are and where we need to send help to. So a special requirement for those sort of people. There are selected demarking routes while sweeping, but I will defer to Joe Dorff, who's our course director. He will contact each of those key people about what he'd like to do. It is part of our permit requirements, both from Parks Victoria and from Mystic and from the council, that we do clear up all of the different course signage out on course as well. All right, we have a few different ways of keeping connected for you to keep connected with the event over the weekend. And so there is, from the top left, we have a WhatsApp group for volunteers and course crew, course people. So if you do have WhatsApp and you want to stay connected, please do join that. If you have any troubles with that, please contact myself or Vic or Julie for any more information. We have something called a Sports Splits tracker. That's the one in the top right. So this will show you results anytime an athlete follows through or crosses any of those timing points out on course. It will come up and report in that tracker as well. So can be interesting for you if you've got friends, family, other people participating. If you just want to see, if you're in an aid station and you want to see where the leaders are up to, which aid station they're up to, that sort of thing, you can find some of that information in this tracker. So it's one way to keep connected. Totally optional, but connected. WhatsApp group, also totally optional. But if you want to share information and be a part of it, feel free to do that. All of our maps this year, course maps, in an app called Capra. There are a couple of guys out of Sydney have developed Capra, and it's a really great way. It also has locations and pins for all of the aid stations and things like that. I'll see if I can get it up for you really quickly, so you can see where to go and those sort of things as well, and all of the course maps over the big picture. I'll just load it up for you while we're talking. The final one is the iVolunteer portal. So obviously this is where you have placed your details into so far. So please do click on that link to just double check your information throughout, and just make sure that lines up with your information. If you want any changes, if anything like that, please feel free to do that through that portal, and it'll confirm things for you, and things like that. I promised you a look at the app. There's the Capra app with the 10-kilometer course on it. And so you can see there, it shows where the aid station is, it shows the elevation of the course, and shows all of that as part of the mapping tool as well. So it's got the 10K, all the different courses basically, and you can click on an aid station within that and say, give me directions. And if you use Google Maps or Apple Maps or another Maps app, things like that, it will give you GPS directions to follow through that app to get you where you need to go. So recommend that one as well. Really, these are just different tools. If you feel like they're going to be useful for you in your role, please feel free to use them. If you feel it's a bit over the top, then I understand as well. That's okay. That's a quick summary. We're 45 minutes, so maybe not so quick. I just will ask Julie just to say a quick hello, so that people can see her while people maybe think about any questions that they might have. So Julie, hello.
Hello, everybody. I'm looking forward to meeting you all up at Buffalo Stampede.
Fantastic. Thanks, Julie.
I do have a question.
Awesome. It's good.
What is going to be at the event village? Is there going to be any food trucks, or is there going to be just expo displays?
Cool. Good question. Yes, for those who are there. So yes, we do have a number. We have coffee. That's always very important. We have a number of different vendors, including Hoka, Brightside, Physio Cream are doing massages, T8 are selling some other gear, Fixed Nutrition's doing samples, and we're right next to the Bright Brewery as well. So if you want food, they're right there. Yeah. Any other questions, or have we knocked them all out of the park here? I'll give people a few moments.
Hi, how you going, Nigel? Can you hear me?
I can. I can't see you, but I can hear you. Far away.
No, I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure how to turn the image on, but I've just got a question. I've just got a question. I'm on the Buckland Valley Aid Station.
Yes.
And I was wondering, I understand because I've got the early shift on the Saturday morning. When I arrive at the aid station, are all of the fruit, bananas and food there, or do I have to go to the village to pick them up first?
No, you don't need to come to the village to collect them. We will have someone to come and they'll be delivered to the aid station, so that will be fine from your point of view. But if you can allow, considering your time of your shift, you will need to provide some setup time ahead of the first athlete. So once you're there, once you pop the marquees up and all of that sort of thing, you'll be pretty quickly into chopping up fruit and watermelon and bananas and getting the taps ready and all of that sort of thing. So no, you don't need to collect things from Buckland Valley or for the aid stations.
Right. Okay. So should I take a photo of the setup and give it to you prior to the first athlete coming through?
That would be brilliant if you could do that. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that would be good. And that goes for all the aid stations. As you can see, I just had that photo from Buckland Valley last year. I do have some others, but really good way for us to reference and show next year's volunteers. Well, this is what the setup looks like, sort of thing. So yeah, I think Colin's got a question, or he wanted to share something. I'll see if we can swing over to him.
Hello.
Yes, mate, go ahead.
Yeah. So just to pick up on that question that just flowed through then. So we'll have water and all the infrastructure sent out to all of the aid stations for pre-setup. We'll have all of the food produce, including all the dry products, confectionery and fruit, distributed out separately. It'll be the crew setting up Cresta Valley and the chalet. They will be collecting from a base, and we'll send out a separate brief out to them. So they will be transporting up some goods. Big Mick will be driving up a trailer up to Clear Spot, so that'll be sort of an internally self-help sort of format. But Bakers, Buckland, and Eurobin will be supporting those setups. But there will be a tray of meals and some small utensil type things that we would be asking for the team leaders for the different aid stations on that very first day of Saturday to swing past the village to collect. But we can send through a little bit of a refined list for you guys on that. But most of everyone's engagements will have actually defined that from the time to actually depart Bright. So there's been time allowed for him in your whole time slot to travel to the destination, set up the facility, take a snapshot of what a completed setup looks like, enjoy your first wedge of watermelon before the first participant comes through.
Yeah, good point. Thanks, Colin. So just to reiterate before, your time slots for the first shift include travel time from Bright. So please don't leave an hour earlier than that, but please do acknowledge those times. Colin, when you said meals, I think you might have been referring to some meals for the team leaders rather than the athletes. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct. So we've got it's our job to keep you fed. So there's we've got a number of sort of food sort of packages going out there. So we know whether you're there in the morning or the lunch or the evening, or for some select lucky few overnight. So we've got sort of arrangements in place to make sure you're all carved up.
Good one. Thank you. Very good. Any other questions? Oh, I see one here from Sarah Boyd. If you still have the t-shirt and hat from last year, yes, you're welcome to reuse. That's perfectly fine. And also, I guess, extension of that, if you have last year's t-shirt and hat, if at the end of this event, if you don't feel that you're going to ever particularly use that t-shirt or hat again, feel free to return it to us so we can use it again. But yeah, that's totally non-obligation. You can keep it if you like. But I know for a few people that they do say to us, we're probably not going to wear this again. So that's okay. Give it back to us. So yes, I think the design may have slightly changed from year on year. So just see if there's any other questions. Otherwise, we will.
I've just got one, Nigel.
Yep.
For those volunteers heading straight out to the aid stations, can they just ping you a message so we know to send their volunteer kits to the aid station?
Yes, that would be ideal. And I think we'll try to manage that in the week before, who will be traveling to and from. But yes, I think if we get them to send in a message with those, that would be really good. So they can just go directly to the aid stations rather than coming to Bright for no particular need. Yeah. Damien.
Yeah, Nigel, just a quick question. For the 42K sweepers, do we have a spot on the bus?
Yes, you do. Yep.
Yeah, cool. That's all right. Just obviously when you register for the event, you can choose, but as a volunteer, you couldn't. So I just want to double check.
Yeah, no worries. That's good. Good you got in there because we close those off tomorrow morning or tonight. So that's good.
No, thanks.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you.
Hey, Nige.
Yes.
We're on shift 2 at Cresta, and after our shift, obviously, that site gets shut down. Do you need a hand to break down the site, or do we just leave it and or what goes on there?
Yep. If you can pack that down, yes, please pack that down, particularly as that shift is contained. That would be really good. And as you can see from the setup, that won't take a great deal of time to do. So anything you can, any help you can provide us with there in terms of packing up those tables and marquees and things like that would be really good.
Well, will there be a trailer there, or because I can take, instead of taking a hatchback up, I could take a ute up?
Oh, good question.
Yeah, can you hear me here?
Yep.
Yes, Colin.
Yeah, this is the so honourable Ed. So good to hear from you, Ed. So
Hey,
the
mate.
yeah, I was going to hook you up directly. So yes, we will have a trailer up there. So yes, it would be good for you to take up your fancy ute, hitch that on, and just send back down the hill, which is perfect. So everything for Cresta will be contained neatly inside this one trailer. So that way, when you arrive, you can just hitch that on to return down the hill. So I was going to be checking that with you guys.
Okay.
That's perfect.
Where do I drop that trailer off?
Back at the Hotham Freight Yard, 32 Churchill.
All right. Okay. Will that be open?
Yep.
Okay. Cool. Okay. That's it. Thanks.
Good.
Wicked.
Thank you. Cole, I wasn't sure if you had your hand up or not, so I'll just ask you as we go.
Oh, no, I put it down. No, I was just scratching my face.
That's cool. I've got a question from Martine. Are all the volunteer spots filled? Unfortunately not yet, despite our searching and seeking. So if you know of any other people who would like to jump in for any roles, particularly around the Saturday in Baker's Gully and Urobin are ones where we have some people, but some extra people would be really helpful. So that's probably some of the key locations. We are fairly well covered in terms of bib collection on the Friday and the Saturday. So that's less essential or less of a need, if you like. But particularly some of those roles on some of those aid stations and marshal points. So if you want to check any of those, you can have a look on iVolunteer or send your friends a link and say, come and join us. We get good stuff. And send them over to the iVolunteer link. And anything that's, I'm pretty sure if it's green, I think it's vacant. If it's purple, I think it's full, or maybe the other way around. Yeah, so please do send them our way. We'd really appreciate any extra help. I'll just do one more call for questions because it's 8:59 and I did promise everyone we'd be done by then. Thank you, Julie, for jumping on board. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Colin, for your comments as well. Super appreciate it. I'll just, if I can just go back here. Again, I'll just cover off some of these again. Please, if you feel like it's over the top, don't feel like you need to download any of these. But if you want to stay connected throughout the event and really keep up with how things are progressing and what's happening out there, because I've been on aid stations and drink stations before, and sometimes you just don't really know what's happening. You can only see your little patch. So if you do want to use any of these tools, particularly the WhatsApp and the Sports Splits tracker, they can just be a really helpful way to keep you involved and let you keep you up to date with what's happening. So there aren't any more questions at the moment, but again, people might have been feeling a little bit shy. So what we will do is I've circulated this PDF. If you've got any questions, please email, just hit reply to that email. Either I will respond to them, or Julie or Vic or Colin will respond to them. I will say Colin will mainly take the lead in terms of those logistics. Vic and Julie will mainly take the lead in rostering and things like that. And I'll take anything that's left over along the way. So thank you all for taking your time out both tonight and also in a week or so in Bright. So thanks very much. Really appreciate it. So and thank you to Vic Dorf, who's been doing lots of hustles, our super mum, for pulling all of so many volunteers together so far. So thank you all. Have a great Wednesday evening, and we will see you very soon. Good night.
Thanks, Nigel. Bye.